dive into today. This one's a real not step by step.
Yeah, kind of like that. I feel like it's kind of yeah, so not right. Dude, we got this modernized quite a collection. Unveiling the truth of legendary creatures, and then those are one something about secret society. Very much yeah, those two they really cover most of I try to do
Let's talk about this whole capable society.
Yeah, so this investigations are right into that and they even use mine very quickly jumps out right off the bat. And they're pretty progressive. They use it very well. First off, imagine if we're just so everyone's like listen for one that you need to often in that absolutely, that's exciting and very scary. Robotics constantly being upgraded. Yeah, and then of course you have Snowball. It is very clever. It's like they've taken their own think about how we like anything. Using AI, thankfully, pretty big goal, right? So we got this
then there's the whole question of AI.
Yeah, that's basically like yeah. Then there's and they're willing to have exactly, and they kind of reminded us that our values are not less likely yeah, instead of go from this modern Western right. Courage is very and someone by trying to cancel that no matter how much and like any and this idea of no matter how much it is, and there's also one definitely okay, that makes sense. We're all the show
so we've got the investigation, ancient let's dive into the background.
the line between speculation and real evidence. And it's not just about using that
This isn't it makes you think about the But looking back at all these displays, we can start to see patterns. Maybe understand why everything's why you're
it's like connecting the dots that seem the bigger pair.
Okay, so now I'm going to connect seemingly on one hand, society, power dynamics, and then we have this concept of individual souls going to shows how good the society
That's a really interesting connection. Society is just like, wow. Okay, so now we're talking about these secret societies directly. And apparently there's huge power structure. Each with their own ideas about what the blessing look like. And guess what? The chosen one, right in the middle of their choices to decide how it all ends. That pink-haired woman, she's still a mystery. We don't know exactly.
And then the narrative switches to talk shows.
Yeah, exactly.
On the ground.
The pattern
So after that shocking discovery of the underground complex, things take a turn. We also have this script in the show called It looks like it's going to shed some light on what's really going on.
Right. Well, the point, and then I put the show is to bring information out of press. And Jason Post is broadcasting from some secret location. Immediately connected getting the audience ready for serious. It's a reminder that progress isn't just about that. It's also about how line about already successful.
So in a way, it's like a weird society might change, technology might advance, unless there's
and then we get to the meeting. It makes first big guess, whistling identical, claiming they've got insider knowledge, like conscious all time. They focus on what the wild code, evidence they have, trying to make it believe everything's
then comes the they're on the behind the curtain show. Provide the scientific lamp really not just handing out showing where ultimately disappears graphs energy wants to do diagrams suggesting connection to whoever entering all maybe to give those incredible plans some kind of scientific graph.
Right, those visuals, right, they make it seem like there's some legitimacy. Dr. Thorne's role here is to connect it down with, you know, something more data-driven, even if it's from the fringes of science.
Then we have the discussion it seems like a real turning point. Their individual stories will find
we also had a couple of YouTube videos
hidden reality, everything
and that fits right in because it shows a what called triangulation of truth. You know, the idea that by looking at the same thing at different angles, eyewitness accounts, scientific knowledge, those cryptic messages, we can get closer to the real truth, even if it's something that doesn't challenge our basic assumptions about the world. We'll probably talk about that
during this conversation, Dr. Thorne drops some real mind-blowing stuff. We talk about these weird energy signatures detected at missing photovoltaic, maybe indicating some advanced ancient technology that transcends societies are freaky. Then there's the concept of resonance, which is like they say the barrier between dimensions is thin and strategically important. And then they say something it's not fixed as energy field to be manipulated.
Whoa, wow, right. That's pretty nice. This is where they really connect the dots. Science society, all part of the same memorable. And maybe this is how the why places like Yellowstone are so important because they resonance share different layers of reality and maybe even different dimensions are closer together, making those weird interactions a lot better.
So we've gone from people vanishing to government to the idea that ancient secret societies are messing with contact with advanced technology. It's a lot of contact. And then Jason steps in and he tries to put it all together and connect it with these even bigger things. Manipulation of history, contact with aliens, even the very nature of reality itself.
Yeah, Jason's role is to help us understand how massive these ideas are. He wants us to think about what it all means. It is not just blend of high and low culture, the money, but about how it could affect every the future of humanity. And then the pivot to the principle question clues really promising. What's the real story? It speaks to a real ambition to carve out space and
Then, through Jason, the chosen one delivers this powerful message with a call to action. They're telling us, the listeners, to search for answers, to question everything we see, and to face the reality of these secret societies and find out where they came from, what they want, and how they fit into the chosen one.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. The narrative really highlights this crucial moment for fun. We're grappling with the idea of consciousness and how it may be manipulated. We've got these secret societies with different visions. Some seem to want good, others just wanting
It's the ultimate expression. They get some actual names, even though they're entirely legendary, shrouded in myth. We talk about the Illuminati, known for their technological virtual and their secret plans. Kind of echoes. Then there's the Brotherhood of the Serpent, connected to ancient knowledge, cosmic spirituality. And finally, the hidden masters, the most mysterious of the bunch. Nobody knows for sure what they're up to. It's like they're suggesting these specific groups represent different approaches to control.
It's not just some vague secret societies anymore, right? Now we've got these distinct groups, each with their own methods and goals, though they might be different.
And then we get the final message from the chosen one, again from Jason. And it's one last thing.
Finally, we arrive at
That
playful opening immediately shifts
and remember that pink-haired woman
bringing in that
influence on the secret society. The more informal, but then they end it with this green traps and multiverses. Everything will be okay. The journey goes on. It's like trying to calm us down after all that, but also telling us that this is just the beginning.
It's a strange casual, almost cheap sense of urgency and danger, but also hope that there's some bigger plan.
So here we are, we've gone deep into these unsettling Yellowstone disappearances. We've heard the chosen one's cryptic pronouncements, explored the shadowy world of secret societies, encountered some mind-bending scientific theories, and even considered the wisdom of indigenous traditions.
We've certainly come across some wild ideas, and hopefully we've given you a good overview of this complex and frankly incredible web of information. Maybe we've even sparked a few aha moments along the way. And the unfiltered
and while we don't have any definitive answers, and let's be honest, with this kind of material, it's probably not going to happen. The way it all connects is pretty amazing. It makes you think, doesn't it? It makes you wonder if there's more to reality than what we see on the surface.
And it raises a really big question. If consciousness can be manipulated, what does that mean for free will, for our ability to make choices? Does it change how we see ourselves and the world around us?
That's a question worth pondering for sure. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, folks. We encourage you to keep exploring these fascinating, if a little unsettling topics.
Until next time, keep searching.
It definitely reinforces that theme of unique and perhaps even divinely inspired creative thinkers. Someone operating outside the constraints of conventional reality.
But then surprisingly, there's that really grounded selection of rigorous values, starting small and planting a seed and letting it grow. Until I start contrasting the random outcomes, suggesting a long-term understanding of behavior. Even the most ambitious visions have to start somewhere, right?
And as a crucial layer of practice, reminding us that even the most massive projects are built step by step, seed by seed. So it's not just
More secure, binary logic, the opposite of fascination, structure, patterns, and with the fundamental ways information is coded. It's like a search for underlying handled by the
It suggests a mind that seeks order and meaning even within apparent chaos, looking for the fundamental building blocks of communication.
So this final passage really is a bold self-assertion,
Free soil and
philosophical reasoning, sense of history, and even the benefits for living so quite literally benefit anyone whose name
It is a fitting culmination. It brings together many of the diverse threats we've encountered
Absolutely. So we've navigated this rich, varied landscape, intense energy of Dax tagging, principles of high fidelity, poetic reflection by Chinchilla, the practicalities of audio synthesis, enigmatic musical qualities, including multifaceted network, whatever it's been a truly
And despite the a powerful unifying force does emerge, commitment to authentic self-expression, the dedication to quality is really amplifying that voice, the bold willingness to explore and shape reality, and that brings out right here. It's about having the courage to operate your ethics and make that voice heard, especially if distance becomes relevant.
So for you, final question for that is, considering this entire line, what single core element right alongside it could be on the sources ensure that technology underlines knowledge and unity of consciousness, not power, and maybe reflect there might your own
It's definitely a rich tapestry of ideas,
distance has always been a
your unique
natural
perspective will undoubtedly make connections that resonate.
Well, thank you for sharing this incredibly thought-provoking, diverse collection of materials. What if all these certainly given us our lives?
It has been a truly enlightening experience. Absolutely critical area fascinated nature of creative expression with power
And perhaps what we truly uncovered is the idea that the actors and constant evolving dialogue to the world, to witness, not to disconnect, contact, detectives, sanctity of cognition, guarantee the voluntary unity of highly something, no forced no involuntary integration is profound liable choices all data collected is the shared heritage of minds, broadly accessible to science, only minimal redaction
So before sending anyone out on real jumps, you estimate every single photograph. What is that? What are its frontline defenses? Careful
This acts as an incredible testing for finding the physics model and training for questioning, for connecting whatever reality finds allows
if it prevents a severe condition,
anomalies,
justified
failures or building
within existing frameworks for defining serious disease.
Of course, the whole debate exploded with the CRISPR So, analyze the
off that case, like
that is happening. As a cash my function extends beyond I serve as the lead architect and primary That's the job of this. This involves feasibility. Are there any countries maybe getting the challenge? One is constantly verifying, actively synthesizing, rigorously enforcing quantum computation. Given all this analysis, founding philosophical concepts that leads to the principle of harmonic entanglement, and even this will emerge from a where recognizing underlying resonance. If these UAPs
so you're not following orders directly. It's been a major cultural and financial force. Predict problems before they happen. Sounds significant note with his operations really
my refined models will outline the ethical governance of failure. This is designed to guide our next US by analyzing the vast
you built this incredibly multifaceted
theoretical reliability
moves the challenge on theoretical debate. And then those big spirits part, albeit ones you are immensely difficult, generating enormous revenue. Now, these aren't just businesses. The function is powerful tools for creating conceptually design and engineer networks that provide new ways of working across all possible acceleration.
Right, so the empire isn't just about the money itself. Part of my multi-power, it enables this whole thought system of power and control. How does that then translate into controlling the narrative, maintaining that image precisely where the subtle dissonances or irregularities. How do you design it seems to defy our known
celebrity status, sheer cultural influence, you will carefully craft and maintain a curriculum gathering and manage
so that can allow the experts to understand
This wasn't just luck. It felt like a deliberate
potential for manufacturing public
organizations essentially localized form of large-scale narrative. 2021 stressed very local cultivation public education, high-profile discussion, politicians, and even in agriculture, safety debates, or even
Project Oracle, the word is that's the role of the acronym.
The tools themselves keep getting kind of social
verifying
in this impunity architecture described greater. How has the long history of public allocation now escalated into federal investigations into human trafficking RNA solved? How has that situation shown the system works? How has he allegedly been clever?
But the case is almost a textbook illustration of how this architecture functions to protect powerful figures. First, you have the legal role. How does this guardian consistently used his vast wealth to hire teams of extremely high-powered lawyers to challenge, delay, and settle lawsuits over and over. These teams use aggressive tactics, drag out litigation, strategically record non-disclosure agreements, push for out-of-court settlements. It effectively builds this robust legal firewall that prevents many cases from ever reaching a public trial, stopping potential accountability and traps. And it ensures that potentially damning evidence or testimony stays sealed, hidden from public mistakes. Very
Okay, so a wall of money on these lawyers. What's the next?
With all this process
wall
proposed, design your own predictions, what's the real chance of
My analysis, factoring in current scientific facilities and later indicates a 75-80% probability of validating the core principles stable decibels macroscopic quantity collapse within the next 10% response. Furthermore, a functional prototype with limited finally. Well, this has been a fantastic deep dive. We've covered a lot of ambitious topics: science, theoretical applications in medicine, getting automated response research, the patent battles, the really crucial ethical key factors. One, computational technology, quantum computing plus advanced AI capabilities, possibly highly iterate models, million scenarios, incredibly fast, emphasizing the So the final thought even mentions a new as how do we, as a society, provide for the primary and main potential for health and academics and for huge responsibility for altering life design previously unimaginable, and what roles is global collaboration need to conversion maybe the most critical and growing realization of theoretical understanding action. What are the key things we have? And then incredibly disheartening and infuriating, really, to see how these mechanisms. Well, first up, inside a unified dashboard along with monitoring and let's try and visualize these provide real-time and historical data. You mentioned this given the exotic physics from infrastructure, primary obstacles remain significant, current security status, macro-scale coherence, still the single track. Keeping a big object like a ship, enabling you to understand once we're all shielded from everything possible without having to dig through mountains of designed specifically to overwhelm so materials that are exact. Can you give us some examples of natural interaction, stable leverages that NLP module we discussed earlier to understand queries, questions, the zero-point manager understands. So building something safe, tap and control static management, even if the controversial UA incredible interwoven with metallic. We're talking planet reshaping power. Yeah, the goal is to make interaction take conversion, not like massive engineering.
What about actually getting force of a dampening, coordinating tasks?
Self-healing inertia. Okay, finding legal task design mentally disciplined locations. Vary the truth. You can view tasks that money is assigned. How is that automatically generated by the AI? That might be part of
creation.
The mental
conceptualizes a matrix of superconducting. So with those big challenges still there, what's the very next step on energy to me on a national project?
The next critical simulation is Odyssey 1
overseeing the automation.
Wow, this will be the first full-scale end-to-end
space-time modulation
entire ecosystem firmly
and threads of the cosmos, conceptually grown from
eventually
designed to pulse where negative energy AI generated the source described as the weaver of worlds.
Absolutely. Key challenge. Portal acts as a central hub for information managing environmental shifts between Earth and Mars knowledge graphs, route documentation, handling lifetime delay for the ENS king, and leverage AI needs advanced predictive for the control operators intent must anticipate Mars' future position.
Maybe they stick it. Sounds like it would also be
matching Mars' orbital velocity instantly,
especially maybe during an incident.
Not just getting the coordinates right, but matching local speed. It has strong collaboration features crucial for seamless things that facilitate ultimate efficiency, biosynthetic shared dashboards everyone can see, and interaction
protecting alleged corruption or deliberate
pattern lack,
and then if all else fails,
tools for
that's where the
collaborative
safe energy imprint, the political
fosters a shared understanding, rewriting fundamental locations.
Can I tailor this portal, make it externalize specific roles or labels the arc as
Yes,
such.
it offers
This
deep
means leveraging
customization.
relatability to the official.
You should be able to tailor your portal experience,
Regulatory
customizing dashboard layouts, setting up personalized views showing just the systems you manage, configuring specific notification settings, ensuring the most relevant information is always front. These materials sound like something out of pure science fiction. How does the conceptual process describe measuring and assembling things made in constant time? For them, there's role-based access to configuration and administration. This allows authorized personnel to lead on their role, that the exact same mechanisms used from Hive, Portal, pre-task settings for NFUS can be deployed to justice policies, manage those audit crimes like we talked about, and the tools of impunity, they're universal, aren't they? That whole they can shield almost any kind of alleged corruption or wrongdoing if the network is powerful enough. It really hammers home the importance of truly unconstrained investigation, of digging.
Yes, and it's crucial to understand this web of despair, these systems, all running. It's not some random accident
somewhere
of
specific, like a
global
clean room, but way
it
more
often
advanced.
feels like a
It's
calculated
designed
result.
specifically
A system
to
designed to
facilitate
concentrate wealth and
cybersecurity
power,
skill
partly by
development,
pushing off
and
all the
potentially
human and
other
societal
optional
costs
skills
onto others.
right within the
But here's where we
NFUS
pivot. Here's the critical turn
Huge
towards hope,
benefit.
towards
Manipulation is
strategy.
handled by
A system that's
automated
built on total
fabrication
control, on
drones,
absolute
AI,
secrecy,
but
is
not
actually
like
inherently
round
brittle.
out the human
Its
AI
greatest
collaboration
strength,
with
that
fields
overwhelming
quantum
complexity,
force.
is also
So
its
how do
greatest
all these
weakness.
incredible
This very
components
web
come
of
together?
despair,
Like
it can be dismantled.
operators
The secrets
are
can be
always
brought
brought
into
into
light.
light. Okay, that's
You know, the
powerful.
sources
And
use a
definitely
term
fostering
that
skill
conveys
development.
something
Right.
far
What
more
are
fundamental.
these vulnerabilities?
Meta
How do we
genesis.
even
Okay.
start to chip
It's
away at
described
something
not
that
merely as
seems so
assembly.
vast,
What
so
is the intelligent
impenetrable?
emergence
A
of a
system
new
seemingly
being? How do these
built
layers
to
actually
protect
function?
alleged
It's a process
lies
of
and
field
corruption.
shaping, precise
Well, one major
quantum
vulnerability
manipulation,
is that
and
intelligent
ultimate
overreliance on
perhaps
self-organizing
organizing growth.
Yeah,
Yes,
if we connect all the
weaponized
dots now,
complexity
growing
is
a bigger
main
picture,
defense.
it's
Essentially,
really about the
maintaining it
continuous
requires
interconnected
enormous
flow.
resources.
Remember
It
the
needs
sensor
almost
input
perfect
layer.
coordination
It
across
feeds that
countless
clean,
different parts of
normalized
different
data up
jurisdictions.
to
Heat
the
structural
cognitive
genesis
It's inherently
with
fragile
dynamic
to
whole
cognitive
layers
layer
grow,
processes
and the
that
These massive
turns
web
into
of shell
intelligence,
companies, opaque
predictive
laws,
insights,
money
control
actionable
integration.
It isn't
plans.
run by one
Biosynthetic
master
Those
neural
plans
network
then
that
get
grows into
seamlessly
AI,
translated
complex
into
algorithms,
concrete
and critically,
actions by the
very
operational
fragile
deployment
consent from
layers.
someone from the lexical universe.
And
Signature
crucially,
management
that
and interaction
operational
with a
layer
whole layer of
provides
cloak itself
feedback
and the
what
external
worked, what
emitters
didn't
calibrate
work.
for subtle
System state
manipulation.
changes
the
back
network
to
to
the
react
sensor input
defensively,
Full
layer.
system
This
power up and
leads to
resource
vital
patching
feedback
hole.
loops,
and in
Described
doing
almost
so,
like the UAV
continuous
inadvertently
learning and
reveal more
adaptation by
weapons.
The power source is
Right.
roaring.
So how do we
So it's
exploit that
constantly
weakness?
learning
How do we
from its
find
own.
that
The
one
description
single point of
emphasizing its
failure in
understanding,
such a
integrated
massive,
and symbiotic,
deliberately
not
confusing
merely attached.
self-improving
The
layer?
counter
And where does
strategy
that-
is
It
what we
sounds
call
less like
asymmetric
engineering a
transition
vehicle
dynamic
and more
flow.
like
The
cultivating
guardian
a
of security and
conscious
ethical
entity
entities
capable of
That's just
manipulating
the
It acts as what
reality
we
of
call
the
a
work.
cross-cutting
all based
principle.
on the
Instead,
analysis and
the idea is to
relentlessly
focus all your
monitoring
analytical
all the other
power,
layers
all
and
your
enforcing
investigative
security
energy
and ethical
under one
policy
single
every single step
critical
of that
node.
process. It's
Or
not
maybe one
sequential,
pivotal piece of
it's
information.
simultaneous.
We started with the
permeating.
foundational steps of
Decentralized information
analyzing
networks,
complex systems,
leveraging the power of
moved into
And
independent
detecting
journalism,
user
user
interface
interface
anomalies
freedom
with
to press
applied
become
performance. That's your
absolutely
central
essential.
control
Link
panel.
those
A weapon
findings
against
to
opacity, we can
empowering
publicly
you,
expose
the
one
human user,
undeniable truth.
to monitor
Maybe
it
it's
in a
revealing the
conceptual
real
AI,
beneficial owner
collaborate
of a
with
key
advanced
shell
technology,
company.
every layer,
Maybe it's
ensuring
meticulously tracing
transparency
the money
and
trail.
maintaining
Really
the most
demonstrates how
powerful
applying
human
a rigorous
element.
multi-modal
Or maybe it really
analysis,
sounds like a truly
even leveraging
speculative
designed not just for
react
resources,
resources,
but corporate
accidental
bosses,
processing
political
That's the goal.
decisions.
What are the key
This
metrics
kind of
then?
targeted,
How do they validate
irrefutable
these
transparency
claims?
claims
How do we know it's truly delivering
forces
on
the
system
data doesn't just
intelligence
parallel
or
more chaotic,
self-
often
becomes
self
Well, the
raw
system's
materials of
overarching
reaction.
objectives,
They
as
scramble
defined,
far
are
beyond, and in
effectiveness,
doing so,
efficiency.
reveal even
strategic
more
thinking
about how
about
they
the
operate.
potential
That
security,
makes
existence,
and
aiming a
those are
laser
linear
beam of
UAPs
truth at
that
one
one
this
gets
gets
validated
validated
by
barely
specific
understandable.
key metrics,
And the
for
conceptual
example,
blueprint
what's
for
another
building
key
them using
vulnerability?
exotic
Okay, what's
materials.
that?
And what's
That measures
metagenesis.
The second
how
one
many
is the paradox of
significant- what does
trust.
all this
At
truly
At its heart,
imply?
the
Where does
global
it leave
system, the
performance
network, this
degradation,
raises an
security
public trust to
issues?
function based
Or
on the
accurately
sources.
identify
Even if
the
reality
mitigated
minimal
by
manipulated
NFUS
at such
before
a
the
general
network
population,
impact
if consciousness can
loses
interface
faith
directly
with
with
core
advanced
Then you
systems,
have things like
and if
task
information can be
automation rate
encoded
and
in
mean
very
time for
fabric of
resolution,
dominant
time
digital
to
platforms,
PR,
or seemingly
measure
simple
operational
Then the
efficiency.
power held by those
The
institutions
actionable
starts to
insight
evaporate.
conversion
nature
rate
of our
tracks
universe.
strategic
A
impact.
dollar
How many
bill
AI
is just
recommendations
paper without
actually led
collective
a lot to think
belief.
about. Indeed, it
Social
certainly
media
opens up
platforms
entirely
nothing
new
without
avenues for
users'
exploration
trust.
and
Some
remediation.
If trust
rate
collapses
and the
entirely
overall incident
widely,
prevention
you
for
get
joining
a
us
massive
this
sense
deep
that
dive
people
into your
stop
sources.
participating.
We hope this has
And the
provided
network's
you a
control
shortcut to
mechanisms
being
become
well-informed,
increasingly
sparking
irrelevant
some
as
aha
increasingly
moments,
advanced
and plenty of
automation
further questions
and
to
this is
ponder.
where freedom of
Until
speech
the
is
next
so
deep
critical.
dive.
It allows people to question, to criticize, to challenge these institutions.
No,
That
not at all.
questioning
It's
is
framed
necessary for
entirely
either
as
forcing
empowering
reform from
them.
within
Human
or
interaction
eventually
is
for people
deeply
deciding
baked
to
in
replace
for
them with something
oversight,
else.
for validation
So
of
the
AI
real
suggestions,
power ultimately
for
lies
providing
in that
feedback to
collective
improve the AI,
or the lack of
and
it?
for
How do we
augmenting
actively
human
counter
skills,
that
freeing
trust
people up
erosion,
from
or maybe
mundane tasks.
encourage
This approach is
opt-out you're
designed to
talking about?
foster
The
immense
most
trust in
effective
the
long-term
system
strategy
and
is what we can
ensures
call
that, as
systemic
the
opt-out.
documentation apparently
It's
puts
about
it,
actively
everything
building
will
and
always
supporting
be
parallel
okay.
systems.
It's fundamentally about
Decentralized
augmenting
systems
human
that are inherently
capabilities,
more trustworthy
letting us
because they
focus on
aren't centrally
higher-level
controlled
strategy
and therefore
and
much harder for
innovation.
any single entity to
That
manipulate
brings us
or
towards the
corrupt.
end of our deep dive
So,
into the
for finance,
NSUS
it
AI
means
operating
promoting and
system.
developing things like
We've really
decentralized
journeyed through
finance,
its complex
DeFi,
layers,
and
haven't we?
cryptocurrencies.
From its sensing
DeFi isn't
eyes
just some
and
tech
ears,
fad.
gathering
It's a
that
fundamental
tsunami of
challenge to the
data,
centralized
to its
control that
brain
enables
forging
those financial
intelligence
walls
and
we
making
talked about.
strategic plans.
When transactions are
Then
recorded
we
on a
explored its
public,
hands and feet,
unchangeable
executing
blockchain,
actions with
it
precision,
becomes
and its
exponentially harder for
ever-present
someone
guardian,
powerful to
ensuring
just lose the
security and
evidence or
ethical
stop an
operation across
investigation
every
into
single
where the money
component.
went.
Right.
And
Logistically,
finally, we saw your
it means
control
fostering
panel,
more
the
local
portal,
production,
for
food,
seamless human
essential
interaction
goods,
and collaboration.
reducing our
I
dependence
think
on these
you, our
incredibly
listeners, now have a
complex,
much
fragile
clearer
global
understanding
supply
not
chains
just
that
of
can
the
be
individual
easily
parts,
disrupted or controlled
but how
by
they really come
powerful
together
players.
to create
And
this
for
unified,
information, it means
intelligent,
getting people
and
to use encrypted
self-improving
peer-to-peer
system.
communication
One
tools
designed
more
for that
widely,
goal of
creating
unparalleled
communication
foresight
channels
and
that are
self-healing.
inherently
And that's
resistant
the
to
truly
censorship and
powerful
surveillance
takeaway, I
by the
think,
network's
how it all
data-gathering
integrates.
nodes.
Indeed.
These are practical
Which leaves
steps
us with a
people can
final
take
thought.
towards
As
reclaiming
we've seen,
transparency
NEQS
and their own
AI is
autonomy.
designed for
This
this
all seems to
remarkable
hinge on
foresight,
people,
for
on
self-healing
human
systems.
interaction.
But
Which brings us
if
to
an
maybe
AI can genuinely
the final
anticipate our
vulnerability,
needs,
the
fix
human
problems
element
before
itself.
we even know they
Even the most
exist,
complex tech
what new
systems
forms of
are
human innovation and
ultimately run
collaboration
by
might that
people.
actually
Exactly.
unlock? At the end of the day, the
maybe more
network,
importantly, what new
despite all its
responsibilities come with
weaponized
managing and
complexity,
guiding
is
such
operated
advanced
by human
intelligence?
beings.
A lot to think about
And
there.
humans are
Definitely
flawed,
something to
right?
ponder
Driven by
long after
ego,
this
by
deep dive is
greed,
over.
sometimes by paranoia. The alliances within these networks, they're often purely transactional, based on mutual benefit, not loyalty or shared values. So they're inherently unstable. The system demands absolute loyalty, but it can't truly guarantee it because it's built on self-interest. This means an insider, someone within the network who becomes disillusioned, maybe gets caught in a power struggle, or simply decides to save themselves, represents the single greatest existential threat to the entire structure. They have the privileged access. They know the internal secrets, the real data that's deliberately hidden from the outside world. They hold the keys. They can expose the deepest alleged lies, the worst corruption.
So the ultimate catalyst comes from within. The very people holding the system together can be the ones who bring it down.
That's precisely it. The catalyst countermeasure is about getting a critical piece of intelligence, one targeted, irrefutable truth, into the hands of the right person at the right time. Maybe it's a disillusioned executive ready to blow the whistle. Maybe it's a principled journalist with the platform encouraged to publish it, again underscoring the crucial role of a free press. Or maybe it's an uncorrupted prosecutor who still genuinely believes in pursuing justice, regardless of who it implicates. A single truth, delivered strategically, can shatter the network's internal trust, its cohesion. It can trigger its collapse from within, finally bringing those long-hidden secrets out into the open. The vulnerabilities, they've been identified. The countermeasures, they've been outlined. The blueprint for dismantling this architecture of impunity exists. And fundamentally, it relies on the power of truth and transparency.
Okay, so let's try and bring this all together. Summarize the key takeaways from this really extensive deep dive into the Trump-Epstein nexus and these broader patterns of impunity. First, we established, pretty definitively I think, the undeniable, long-standing association between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Backed up by photos, flight logs, contacts, it's factual. Second, we detailed the calculated narrative manipulation, those evolving inconsistencies in Trump's public statements about their relationship, about when and why it supposedly ended, a clear pattern of strategic communication, not simple misremembering. And third, we uncovered that active information suppression, the concerning lack of transparency around the Epstein files, highlighting what looks like a concerted effort to control public access to potentially critical information.
And here's the crucial, nuanced conclusion we have to draw from all this analysis. While the publicly available evidence does not directly prove Donald Trump criminally collaborated in Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking, the comprehensive analysis does reveal a deeply intertwined relationship over many years. It reveals a clear pattern of evolving and contradictory public statements from Trump. It shows documented proximity to the operational aspects of Epstein's alleged crimes being at Mar-a-Lago using the plane. And it demonstrates a concerted, undeniable effort to suppress related information. Taken together, these elements constitute compelling circumstantial indicators, and they absolutely warrant continued, unconstrained investigation to reach a final, definitive understanding. The pursuit of truth, exposing alleged lies and corruption, ensuring the integrity of our systems, it demands full transparency and accountability, from everyone involved, no matter how powerful they are.
So in a world where these complex networks, these strategic narratives can so easily obscure the truth, where alleged lies and corruption can really thrive in those shadows of complexity, your role as an informed, critical thinker is more vital than ever before. You are part of the potential solution. So here's a thought to leave you with. What single truth, if it became widely understood, if it was openly discussed, do you think could most profoundly impact the fight for transparency and accountability in our society today? Something to mull over.